But we're very happy that our technicians were very handy, and we have that issue fixed. And we are back now. So we are very sorry, and we apologize for the inconveniences and the time lost. We have almost 45 minutes gone. So we are just going to get back the live show, and I think that we will start everything again. So we are going to bring our guest that we have tonight with us, a French MP, Mr. Sabastien Nadot. Yes, MP Sabastien Nadot, we are very sorry. We are very sorry. I apologize for the inconveniences we have with the technical issues of the sound. And once again, you're welcome.
Thank you to you. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year. Hope 2021 will be better than 2020 for Cameroon, for Africa, and for everywhere in this world.
Yes, thank you very much, sir, for your time. We know you're a very busy person, but you set out time to come to talk with us for these very important things that we want to discuss. So just for our viewers, we are going to talk mainly about the relationship of France and the foreign policy of France in African countries. And we shall be talking about issues of human rights, democratic process, and also the responsibility to protect. And MP Sabastien Nadot is going to be joining us. He's an MP in the current French Parliament. And MP Sabastien Nadot, if anybody is watching us now from Kenya, Tanzania, or from Ivory Coast, or from Central African Republic, they might want to know, so who is MP Sabastien Nadot? Who are you? Can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, first I have to say I'm a parliament member of French National Assembly, and I am a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, also members of the Francophonie Assembly. And in my life before being elected, I was a teacher, and I have a PhD on history, and that's the way I try to understand the relations between countries of Africa and France with this very weak and strong colonial past, which can explain a lot of things today, and which is I'm not very happy with this, but which has not completely disappeared.
Thank you very much for that very brief introduction. And these are very interesting things that you are saying that you have been doing, because usually there are many people who get into politics without any previous background, but you have a very rich background of history before getting into politics. So we are going to go straight away now to talk about our first issue, which is about the French relationship of France and their foreign policies in Africa. Before we get into that, I would just like the studio to play us a video of the Ghanaian president giving a very important remark that is very pertinent to many Africans today. So if the studio can play that clip for us, and then we can watch, and then we can discuss from that.
We can no longer continue to make policy for ourselves, in our country, in our region, in our continent, on the basis of whatever support the Western world or France or the European Union can give us. It will not work. It has not worked, and it will not work. Our responsibility is to charter a path which is about how we can develop our nations ourselves. It is not right for a country like Ghana, 60 years after independence, to still have its health and education budgets being financed on the basis of the generosity and charity of European taxpayers. By now, we should be able to finance our basic needs ourselves. Our perspective has not to be what the French taxpayer decides to do with whatever surpluses that they have in France. They're welcome. But this continent And with all that has happened, is still today the repository of at least 30% of the most important minerals of the world. It's a continent of vast, arable, and fertile lands. It has the youngest population of any of the continents in the world. So it has the energy and the dynamism. We've seen it. These young men who are showing so much resilience and ingenuity in crossing the Sahara, finding ways to go across with rickety boats across the Mediterranean to really, those energies, we want to have those energies working inside our countries. And we're going to have those energies working in our countries if we begin to build systems that tell the young people of our country that their hopes, their opportunity are right here with us. Migration and the movement of people is being presented in a manner which suggests that somehow it's a new phenomenon. There's nothing new about it. It's as old as man, the movement of people. And it has always been linked to the same thing. The failure of where you are to provide you with an opportunity, so you move somewhere else. Those of you who are familiar with 19th century European history would know that the biggest wave of immigration in 19th century Europe, the latter part of it, came from Ireland and from Italy. Waves upon waves, generations of Italians and the Irish people left their countries to seek the American paradise, largely because Ireland was not working, Italy was not working. Today, you don't hear it. Italian young people are in Italy. Irish young people are in Ireland. We want young Africans to stay in Africa. And how are they? And it means that we have to get away from this mindset of dependence, this mindset about what can France.
Yes, we are back, MP Sabastien Nadot. That short clip with the Ghanaian president saying that we in Africa, we have to get away from this mindset of depending on France, on what France have to offer to Africa, on what, let's say, the West have to offer to Africa. You, as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the current Parliament of France right now, what can you say about the relationship and the foreign policy of France in Africa?
First, I have to say France is an important trade partner for Africa, clearly. That's the first point. And we have an history together. That's the second point. And with this, we have to look at the futures, different futures, because in fact, what we have to build now, it is new relations with each countries. What I mean, it is this system known as France-Afrique has to disappear. Clearly, it has to disappear because it is not good for people in the countries in Africa, and it is not good for the people for the citizen of France. So we have to think about something new. And that's the question now in a lot of countries in Africa. How to build something else in this moment where international community is not very strong, and all the rules, I think about the rules of human rights, of trade. You know, we have a lot of rules, and international community is not able at the moment to help concretely the countries. So we have to think country to country, what can we do together? And it's a new way to see the things.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that many of us, many Africans today agree to that, to what you are saying. But you mentioned on some stuff when you were talking about the history. You mentioned the history. You talk about a very important trade relationship, and that is important to look to with France and Africa. And you also mentioned that France Afrique need to end. We need something new. I think those are very important things, and they are quite very big. But let us go back to the first point you mentioned about the history. So the history between Africa and France is a history that people always talk about with mixed feelings. And in recent times, I think many Africans even have the understanding that many people in France, the civilians in France, are not really even aware or educated of the past between France and African countries. But we remember that when Emmanuel Macron was making his campaign, he himself at one point said that the actions of France, like in Nigeria, was a crime against humanity, but he later on even downplayed his own statement. So now to this current new generation of Africans and new generation of French citizens, we are not talking about people who were there in the 50s, we are talking about 2021 now. If we have to end the France Afrique, like you mentioned, do you have any suggestion of what next if France Afrique have to end? What kind of relationship can you suggest that France should have with African countries or in Africa?
First, clearly, we have to think about the question of what we can do together and what we should not do together.
Yeah.
What we should not do together is the question of political organization. You know, President Macron, for example, say, "Hey, France is speaking with everybody." But in fact, when I'm looking at, for example, Cameroon, but in other countries it's the same. France is speaking with the leader, with people in power in Cameroon. So we have to change this. Why? Because if we continue to have a relation only with one party, that is to say, we are not in a way to accept democracy in other countries. So, first, we have to think France has not to play a role in internal affairs, but as a consequence, France has to speak with everybody in Cameroon, for example. And the second aspect, it is about the question what we have to do together. We have a common history. We have people from Africa who are living in France. We are people from France who are living in Africa. So we have to think to these people, of course, and we have to think about new project. What is the future? What can we do together? And of course, we have to see both parts. And in both parts, you have advantages. So we have to find this question. What are the advantages to play a new game with a country in Africa? And on the other side, what are the advantages for a country to play a new game with France? And that's the question. You have a lot of questions all around education. You have very big question, and it was said before, around migrations. And you have a very, very big question. And I think for this question, France need Africa, and it is not in the other side. France need Africa in all the question of environment and protection of the earth. And why I say that? It is because you just have to see inquiries after inquiries. The African countries, they have a way of life with a very high level of respect of our environment. but not
Yeah.
countries like France. Even if I have to say France is not so bad, but I think we have to look at all our differences and to find where we can play together.
That's very powerful because, like you are saying, what we can play together. Because many young Africans, many new generation Africans today, they are talking about there is something known as the France-Afrique Colonial Pact, the deal that the French colonies signed with France before they obtained their independence. And today, many Africans from Ivory Coast, for example, in Central African Republic, in Cameroon, many Africans from France-Afrique countries, they are having this doubt if their countries actually obtain maybe just political independence and without really total freedom, that they are still tied to France with the colonial pact. So I think, like you are saying, that many of us in Africa, because there was also a statement also made by Emmanuel Macron sometime last year that there is this sentiment of anti-France in Africa. There is no sentiment of anti-France in Africa. It's just that Africans want to deal with France as equals. We need to do things together as equal sovereign countries. And also, again, like you're saying, Africa is a continent, not just one country. And we think that it is time, like you are saying, that Africa and France should develop a new relationship, taking into account our history, taking into account our common interests in economic and also in the green sector of the environment and protecting, and also on the issue of migration. So we have a lot of common interests. And we have like things that we shouldn't do together, like you talk about those issues about democracy, rule of law, human rights, and those stuff that we can look into those things and forge a new relationship. So talking about that relationship and policies, what do you think drives the interest of France in Africa? Is it based on economic terms? Is it geopolitics about positioning themselves in strategic places in Africa? Is it about human rights? What is the thing that drives the foreign policy of France in Africa?
But first, you have to think about the place of Africa in the future. You know, Africa, I think, is the future of France, but it's the future of Europe with all these old people in Europe, and it's the future of the world. And so, first, the question is we have to look at Africa with a very, very different regard as we have until now. That's the first point. After, it depends on the countries. You know, you have more than 50 countries in the African continent. So you can't think as before that we need to build the same sort of relations with all the countries. And it is the same, for example, for Kenya. It has not the same relations with Germany and with France. And so we don't have to think and to build the same sort of relations with Cameroon and Nigeria and Chad and Guinea, etc. So first, we have to think this complexity and what is a problem in France. It is we have an old way of thinking Africa. Africa has changed a lot since the 90s of the previous century. And in fact, at the moment, politicians have in their mind the way as Africa was in the 90s of the previous century. And after, what I have to say to you to explain, because we have a lot of questions about this, it is that in the medias, we don't talk a lot of Africa, its problem, but not only its problems, but all the good things we can see in Africa. And so, as a parliament member, I'm controlling my government to look at what they are doing, because you have things to say when you are the country with this question of human rights. You know, the
Yeah.
French have this in mind, and when you have information about what happened in Africa and what our government is doing, French citizens are very disappointed. But the first problem is they don't know what happened exactly in Africa, in a lot of countries. So we lack of information about Africa in France, and the politicians are in an old system of thinking Africa now.
Yeah. I think that is something that many of us can agree also, the lack of information, because many of us from Africans who live in Europe, we get to see how um, surprising people within Europe themselves don't have any education about the past of many European countries in Africa, and we guess the same with France. But moving on forward, I think let us go into some recent issues, especially the situation in Ivory Coast with the elections in Ivory Coast that just ended last year when Mr. Ouattara decided to run for the third term in office. And I just have a short clip for maybe a few seconds from the studio about Ouattara on an interview about these elections, and then we can just comment on that and move forward.
It's a decision I'm glad I took today, because the country would have been in a mess if I had not been a candidate.
Do you understand why some of your opponents and a lot of people in your country were upset by your decision?
No, I think they just know they could not win. If they want to grab power without election, they're not Democrats.
While the Ivorian Supreme Court allowed the president to run, the Electoral Commission barred 40 others from challenging him. Does that sound like democracy to you?
Let me tell you, democracy does not mean that anyone should come and run. We have very young countries, very fragile countries. Candidates should be able to say what they're going to.
Yes. And you hear there, like Ouattara was coming back from the third term, violating the constitution of Ivory Coast, that he himself drafted the constitution. And you talk about France is one of those countries that represent human rights and they uphold the rule of law within the international system. And Emmanuel Macron, for once, is somebody who is known for preaching about the rule of law, democracy, and many good moral virtues. But many Africans were shocked to see that France still backed Ouattara to violate the constitution of Ivory Coast and seek another third term in office. Meanwhile, in France, for example, no person can ever think of extending their term of office to the third term. Why is that so? What kind of policy is that?
Well, first I have to say, you have this situation in Ivory Coast, very special, with the death of the Prime Minister. And it was the argument of the President Ouattara to say, hey, you need me. And of course, it's not acceptable, it's unbearable as democracy measure. But you also have to think about the question of peace. So it's a real question. How can we manage? How can we think if Ouattara said, hey, I will be a candidate now, you just have to see, I said that. What can do France exactly? It was a very complicated moment, and what I could understand, because I'm not in the French government, and I was not agree to applaud with this new with this third mandate of Alassane Ouattara. But what I think it's the President Macron. So yes, it's the president of Ivory Coast. If he intervened, people would have said, "Hey, what are you doing as France with your intervention in Ivory Coast scrutiny?" And he didn't intervene. And after you have this president, and you have to say, president of a country has to recognize the president of another country. So, of course, it's not a democratical process that bring Alassane Ouattara to this new presidency. Clearly not. But it's easy to say, hey, Macron has done nothing. And clearly I'm not now in the party of Macron. I am in opposition. But it's not so easy to say, hey, we don't want this guy or this one. And you don't want Trump to be re-elected, but it's not easy to do something. So it's not so easy. And so the position of France is not very good because of the signals sent after election. And I think about Jean-Yves Le Drian, French people at the ceremony of investiture of Alassane Ouattara. All this was not necessary, I think. We should have said, hey, okay, French president sent a message, I recognize you have been elected, but I'm not agree with the process. And so at the ceremony of investiture, with this question of you have to say with the hand on the constitution, hey, okay, I'm the new president, but Alassane Ouattara has done what with this constitution? So it's a very complicated moment, I think, but most for Ivory Coast and France. You know the past, France with the presidential election in Ivory Coast. It's not so easy to say you have to do or not to do. All the solutions are not so good, and so it's not the way I think we should do, because with this election we should have give signals of condemnation of this, and it's not so clear. And of course, now we will see what happened. But if the opponents are still put in jail or things like that, so we have to say something, and the President Macron has to say something about this, because democracy is not only at the moment of the election, it's also after, and it's also now Alassane Ouattara has been elected, okay, but he knows in which conditions he has been elected, and so he should really try to engage this process. He put a minister of reconciliation in. Okay, so we will see about this question. Why not something positive? But recognize I was very angry to see our foreign minister affair, who was happy the day of the investiture to be with Alassane Ouattara. It was not a problem. For me, it's a problem.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that, because it looks like France is saying a lot of good things about human rights, the rule of law, democracy. And in Africa, their actions are not in line to their own values, even that of their own constitution in France. And we are happy that some people like you are talking about these things, and there is an opposition in France as a democracy is supposed to be. But can you tell us what are some of the things that some of the intervention that you have been able to do? For example, you have been working in issues in Ivory Coast, in Central African Republic, in Guinea, and also in Mali. Can you tell us some of the things that you have been doing, some initiatives that you have been doing there to promote better democracy and better relationship of France in Africa?
Well, the fact is, for example, in Guinea, you have Alpha Condé with a third mandate, and he changes the constitution just before the election. It's unbearable. It's unacceptable. But you have to understand, it's unacceptable, but it should be unacceptable from all the countries of Africa all around. And it's one of the problems. African Union has not condemned so clearly and frankly this situation. And so we have to say, Alpha Condé is very old. Why is he still in power in Guinea? You have a lot of clever people in this country. You don't need to have this man. And it's the same for Ivory Coast. But what I can see, it is this large movement. In the 90s, you have something like a new way to democracy in a lot of countries in Africa. And since 2010, about 2010, it's on the contrary. You have something closed. You have not this way to a better way of life for people, because without democracy you can't believe for the common man everything will be okay. And what I intervene, when I intervene, it is when I can see that the situation is bad, and when my country or European countries or United Nations, because I am parliament member, I have to control all of this. I'm not controlling the chief of state of Central Africa, for example. But I have to say, there was an election, and it was a complete insincere scrutiny. It's not something you can put in far or not far, something like in the process of democracy. So you ask people to go voting, but in fact, it's like a theater. I don't know, but with all this violence behind the scene. And so, if the theater is without violence for the common women and men, okay, why not? But the problem is when you have this theater in which France is present. You have this theater, you speak about democracy and things like that. But in fact, it is not democracy, and behind you have all these people who suffer from this situation. And that's the place I think I have to do something.
Yeah, that is really good. And also on my part as an African as well, I think that is the place where many of us in Africa, we are thinking that we have to do something. We want to have a cordial relationship with our brothers and sisters in the Western world, in Europe. We want to have a relationship that will profit both the African continent and also the Europeans. We want to have a relationship that also the economy of Africa is going to grow, human rights and even politics in Africa is going to be clean. And And even when we talk about the environment, that we prosper together as a globe. But we don't want a relationship where Africa will be seen as the underdogs, or Africa will be seen as a theater for Western countries to play foreign policies and extract and loot materials and leave the continent. Because there is many African scholars and even some MPs, I think 2 years ago, from the Italian government, were talking about the France CFA that France have in Africa. And this is a currency that was established even before many African countries become independent. And even till today, we are still using the France CFA in 14 African countries. And those countries keep their foreign reserve in the French treasury and even doesn't have right to that money. So when we, people of African origin, we know these things and we are hearing of this kind of information, it is not something that is good. And again, we know that it's not barely on France to improve the life of African people. No, Africans are very hardworking people. It's a very rich continent with a lot of young people with talent and skills, like you are saying. But again, our leaders are usually the ones that are tied by superpowers like France. When you talk of Cameroon, you talk of Ivory Coast, you talk of Guinea, Central African Republic, all those people are tied to superpowers. And again, they are not able to take actions that is best for their own citizens. And these are the things that we have been used to for the past 55 years and even 60 years to some countries. And again, Africa is a young democracy. We just started, many African countries just have independence maybe 50, 60 years ago. So we also have a time to grow with our democratic process. But again, like you are saying, everything needs to go with the rule of law and human rights. But talking about this France CFA, why do we still have France CFA in 14 African countries? Why do we still have today 14 African countries keeping their foreign reserve in the French treasury? Are those countries really independent? Why they cannot manage their own money? Why these countries cannot have their own currency? Why should it be France CFA?
But on this question, I have to say, ask all the leaders of the countries of Africa who accept this situation. You are not obliged to accept this. So I know we are in the process of changing a little things with the question of ECO and not CFA and things like that. And I think the question is, if enough African countries are able to organize themselves, it's not a problem. You know, with the question of money, I think it's very complicated to be one country, one money, without regards at what happened in all the other countries around. So clearly, it's a colonial legacy, clearly. But to change this, you need leaders of the country in Africa to be very strong on this question. And I have to say, when I hear a leader of Africa at the moment of the election, before a presidential election or something like that, he has very strong speech about this question, and just after the election, nothing. He accepts the situation. So of course you can say, hey, France, you have this question of treasury, and so you maintain the link, the colonial link, and in a part it's right, but in a part it's wrong, because you have also this question of the leaders of Africa, and as you said before, independency for most of the African countries, it's more than 60 years. In 60 years, is it normal that all these countries of Africa, Central and West Africa, didn't organize something? what happened in the Economic Commission of Union Africa? I don't know. So I'm agree with you on this question of the colonial legacy, clearly.
Yeah.
But to change, we need to have leaders who really want to change this. So the responsibility is not only in France or sometimes in England or in United States of America. I think there is sort of maturity in Africa now. And so we have to build with people who want really these new relations and not want to say, yes, we want these new relations. And when they are in a place with power, they did nothing.
Yeah.
You know the number of African in International Monetary Fund, in International Bank. Hey, what are they doing for their country? Sometimes I ask myself also. So it's a problem. It's not the only problem, but it's clearly a problem. But you have to think this system of change of money is very complicated. And if you stop the system, you have to think to build before another system. And so that's the question. I think with digital money, Africa has a new chance in the future to build something with autonomy. And I think it's the way Africa will find the solution. It is with all this question of digital monies you can find somewhere now, but there is something to build strong in this way.
That is very good, and I think that many of us, like we are saying, many Africans are saying the same thing. It is about time we look for new Franco-African relationship. It is about time that we put an end to this colonial legacy and many other colonial legacies that we still have in Africa. And because it is for the best, it is for the future that African population has really grown over the years, and there's talent in Africa, and Africans want also to have the best life as any other human being around the globe. And we will not continue to see the continent of Africa being treated the way it is currently being treated now by the international community, not only France alone. So I want us to talk about this, the next issue of the almost 4 years crisis that is going on in Cameroon. And there is a lot to talk about, and a lot have been already said. I noticed that you have been on different interviews and talking about this same particular subject, and I just want to really want us to talk from a very different point of view, from the point of view of the United Nations Security Council, from the point of view of human rights and the rule of law, and the point of view of the responsibility to protect and the legal obligation that France have as a permanent member in the United Nations Security Council. So, but before we go into that discussion, I just want the studio to play us a video of a Cameroonian citizen who met with Macron, and he was talking about the crisis in Cameroon.
Macron, il y a Paul Biya qui tue les Camerounais, monsieur Macron. Il y a un génocide au Cameroun, monsieur Macron. Paul Biya tue les Camerounais, monsieur Macron. Nous sommes des Camerounais, nous sommes des morts, monsieur Macron. Monsieur Macron, s'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît, monsieur Macron. S'il vous plaît. Oui, monsieur Macron. Monsieur Macron, mon pays, il y a un génocide au Cameroun, monsieur Macron. S'il vous plaît, monsieur Macron. Il y a un génocide au Cameroun, monsieur Macron. C'est un honneur pour moi, c'est un plaisir de vous voir, monsieur Macron.
Moi aussi.
Il y a plus de 22 morts.
Je sais.
Qui sont morts calcinés, monsieur Macron.
Je sais ça.
Nous sommes des Camerounais et nous souffrons. J'ai pris la Méditerranée, monsieur Macron, je vous ai écrit et vous avez répondu.
Vous savez mon engagement sur ce sujet. J'ai mis la pression sur Paul Biya pour que d'abord il traite le sujet de la zone anglophone et ses opposants. J'avais dit, je ne veux pas qu'on se voit à Lyon tant que le général Camto n'est pas libéré. Il a été libéré parce qu'on a mis la pression. Là, la situation est en train de se redégrader. Je vais appeler la semaine prochaine le président Biya et on mettra le maximum de pression pour que cette situation cesse. Je suis totalement au courant et totalement impliqué sur les violences qui se passent au Cameroun et qui sont intolérables. Donc je voulais vraiment...
je vous remercie.
Je fais le maximum.
Je vous remercie, monsieur Macron. Mais il y a plus de 12 000 morts aujourd'hui. Nous, les jeunes Camerounais, nous prenons la Méditerranée parce que nous avons à la tête de nos États des dictateurs. Monsieur Macron, la France est un État de droit. La France est un pays de droits de l'homme. Elle ne peut pas soutenir les dictateurs. L'Afrique a besoin du soutien de la France, monsieur Macron.
Là-dessus, je redirai clairement, je vais parler à la Jeune Afrique. Nous sommes très clairs. Simplement, la France, elle est toujours prise dans un rôle, si je puis dire, compliqué en Afrique. Nous sommes un État de droit, nous défendons l'État de droit partout. Mais quand en Afrique, un président français dit tel dirigeant n'est pas démocratiquement élu, les Africains disent mais de quoi venez-vous vous mêler? Vous n'avez pas à nous donner la leçon. Donc moi, j'ai dit partout, je veux des dirigeants démocratiquement élus. Et là où ils ne sont pas démocratiquement élus, je travaillerai avec la société civile. Je mets la pression sur...
Yes, that is a very interesting piece of video, and I must say that there are a couple of things that Emmanuel Macron admitted in the video. He said he is aware. Je sais, I know about the killings in Cameroon, and he said that, like I said, I am the one who have freed Kamto, the political opposition leader who is now also in house arrest. And then he was talking about, again, the relationship between Africa and France. The question here is, why would Macron said on tape that he knows about this crisis in Cameroon, but his ambassador in the United Nations have never said anything about that same crisis after many meetings that he have there at the UN? And again, he said that he is the one who have liberated Maurice Kamto. Why would also, because these are the things if he's talking about the rule of law. So, but he is admitting in public that he is interfering in the politics of another country, that he has freed an opposition leader. They have the means to do that. I know that France and many other countries in the world have a means to use any kind of tactics, economic sanction, or any kind of way to force other governments to do things that respect human rights. So France can actually do that. France can take certain actions towards Cameroon and when they see abuse of human rights, when they see abuse of democratic process. But why has France, after this admittance of Macron, why they haven't done anything with the Cameroon crisis till today?
First, when you asked why President Macron said, I know about this crisis, I can tell you about this because 2 months before I talked with Emmanuel Macron about the question of Cameroon, so I tell him a lot about this. And the week, 2 days before, or the day before this moment, I sent him an SMS about the Ngarbu massacre. Okay, so he was aware of the situation. And what is very interesting is it is his reaction, because he say, of course, I'm gonna put the pressure on President Paul Biya, and after he said, hey, if I do something, you will say France intervene and you don't have to intervene. What I think, it is everywhere you have something against the human rights, you are authorized to intervene. And it's not ingérence, it's not France-Afrique. But you have to know something clearly. Cameroon is party of United Nations. And you have obligation when you are party of United Nations. There is a charter of San Francisco about the question of human rights. So President Macron, as a member of United Nations, can speak about this question of human rights to Paul Biya. Yes, and you can imagine, on the contrary, a leader of Africa who says something to President Macron because he thinks he's not respected in France or in intervention the way he should act on the question of human rights. That is the way how United Nations should be. So for me, President Macron is right when he said, I will phone to Paul Biya to say, hey, you have to do something, and Garbu massacre. You have to do something, clearly. And it's yes, of course. But and there is no question of colonial past in this. It is the question of you're a leader of a country, and you heard about this question from MPs of your country, from people. It was agricultural meeting in Paris, in an agricultural meeting. You have someone in France who said to President Macron, you have to do something in Cameroon. So his reaction is a good reaction. And after, when you say, hey, he has done nothing, you don't know, we don't know. Of course he has done things. What you can say, until now, it's a failure. Okay. The situation is worse in Cameroon. And it's going worse and worse. I agree with you. But it's not so easy to change the situation. It's a dictatorship since 1982. And so it's not with 3 words or I don't know what, you can change everything. So it's very complicated, and you know, this question of the colonial past sometimes doesn't help because we can't do things as we would do them if there was not this past. So it's not so easy, and it's not this question of everything is bad here and everything is good here. It's not so easy. So it's a question, but in fact, where I'm not in the same way of thinking as President Macron, it is in United Nations, in a session of Security Council, France was with the presidency. You know, it's something we...
It changed after 6 months, the presidency changed,
Yes. And at this moment, there was a session about Central and West Africa. And as president, our representative in United Nations should have asked for an inquiry from United Nations about this massacre of Garbu. Yes, there is a fault. There is a big mistake, and there is a fault from my country. Yes, clearly. Because, you know, with this political decision, it could have been something very strong in the head of people on the ground, in other African countries. If we organize a massacre, we have something difficult after, maybe so that doesn't happen. On this, I'm very angry, and particularly because I asked in a letter to Jean-Yves Le Drian to ask for this inquiry. I asked the United Nations representative of France to do this with a letter, and they answer me, yes, we will speak about this, but you know, we have different sessions, we will do something, and in fact, nothing. And so you have the President Macron, and you have different sort of decisions. Sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's very bad. And the silence since his speech in Ouagadougou, you know, he made this speech about a new relation, a lot of new
between
relations
Africa and
with
France.
Africa.
In the university in Ouagadougou.
In Ouagadougou in 2017. And
2017,
it was a brilliant speech. Yes, I think so. But after this speech, in fact, in the question of human rights, in the question of democracy in Africa, France is silent. And that's why, as I ask my government regularly, what are you doing? Where are you on these questions? That's really the question I have to ask as an MP. I think so.
Yeah, I think that is very good to hear that you are doing your job. And I just want to also say that we understand that the international system is very complex. International law is very difficult and a very complex thing. And we also understand that it is not the responsibility of France to govern African countries. No, we are just talking about the United Nations Security Council, how it functions, because we understand that the United Nations was established in 1945 and the Security Council was created to be the police of the international community. The United Nations Security Council is the police that governs the world. And in 2000, we are also aware of the World Head of State Summit that all head of state in the world came together in 2000 and they adopt and agree to the responsibility to protect that was initiated by late Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General. And this responsibility to protect was an idea that was crafted and adopted by the United Nations Security Council and agreed by all head of states that when any country fails to uphold this responsibility to protect all their citizens that they are claiming sovereignty over, then the United Nations Security Council have authority to intervene to save civilians and to prevent mass atrocity crimes and impunities. And also, countries have that right to do so. And it is on this regard that we are talking about France and all the members in the UN Security Council. Why are they silent? Again, when we look at this legal duty, this is a legal obligation that France, as a member of the UN Security Council, a permanent member, have. You have a president of a country that is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council agreeing to the fact that he is aware of atrocities going on in Cameroon, but his government is not admitting that in the Security Council. Is that not some criminal negligence of the French government? Because we are seeing a situation where somebody might think of a lawsuit, a legal lawsuit to Emmanuel Macron or the French government with the actions in Cameroon.
Well, in fact, there's a lot of questions in what you said. First, I have to say to you, maybe you have followed this, you know, in the following of mapping report, United Nations report on Congo-Kinshasa in the years 1993 to 2003. You have in France a leader of the moment who is in accusation, in justice now since 2 days. So we can't say nothing is done. But you have to understand, it's not the government, it's not international community, but it's a prerogative of French justice. That is very different. And you were talking about international community and its functionment, but I have to say you one thing: international community at the moment is not functioning. It's the main matter. It's something. It's crazy. In fact, if you look at the previous years, the last treaty, very strong, the Paris Agreement from 2015. And then, since, it's impossible to find solution together all the countries of the world. And it's an organizational crisis, in fact. And we have to think about this. But who suffer from this international crisis? The countries who need the most international community at the moment. And in the country, the common man, the common people. And when you look at Cameroon, because it's a very strong question, of course, the question of Southern Cameroon in an international community who is functioning, you will have a round table at a session of the Security Council on this question, clearly. And you don't have it. Until now, you don't have it. And you just have to see Central Africa. You have elections, United Nations said, hey, it was okay, it was not very violent, so it's a good election. Hey, it was not an election, it was a parody of election. So you can understand that international community is at the moment very complicated, with need a lot of change because of the organization itself. You know, for a resolution, you need both of the countries agrees, an agreement. And look, how can you find an agreement in a country in Africa at the moment with China, Russia, United States, England, France? All these countries, they are in opposition, in a way, in their diplomacy in Africa. So they can't find a conciliation, something to do together. And so United Nations is doing nothing because they can't do at the moment something. And you just have the General Secretary, we can say, but with a speech, only a speech. You don't have to do this, you have to stop the war, you have to stop. But in the ground, nothing changed. And that's the problem, I believe, of Cameroon at the moment. Cameroon needs international community, but can't use the United Nations as the good partner. So you have to find something else. And it's very complicated.
We understand the complexity of these issues ourselves, and we are very happy to discuss this stuff with you. And I think that what you are saying, and those of our viewers who are watching, they clearly understand, and we can relate to those things. But again, sometimes, like what we are saying, that sometimes it is confusing, because we saw, for example, like in Libya, when there was a crisis in Libya, how the African Union, African leaders proposed a solution that the African leaders can take the responsibility to mediate between Gaddafi and the rebels. But then the Western countries, let's say the NATO group, came and exclude the African leaders and then they pave in their way. And today you see Libya is in a total form of destruction. And so when we are talking about, you mentioned this big, China, you mentioned Russia and America, France, Britain, and these superpowers, all around Africa. Perhaps this is the time for not only France, but all these countries to understand that things cannot continue the way they are, because African countries are actually being crowded by foreign policies and foreign interests of other countries, and which might compromise the rule of law and compromise democracy and human rights within Africa, and even prosperity of the African continent as well. So, like with the situation in Cameroon, I think we have this is very. I want these videos are very graphic in a way, like this. The killings. I think you have seen a lot of these things yourself on Twitter and social media that we are posting every day. There's video of young men slaughtered in Boya in 2018. There's video of almost 45 children killed, and they were like the cops were full in the back of a pickup truck in Pinyin village as well in the same year. So all those things are amounting to what anybody can say. These are atrocities. These are a crime against humanity. Villages are being burned by the Cameroon government. I think we have a video here from BBC Africa that analyzed that was talking about one of those videos. We can just quickly take a look, and then we come back. We talk about those.
Yes, but you have responsibilities in different places. For example, Cameroon participated in the Rome Conference that created the International Criminal Court. It was in 1998. And Cameroon was one of the first countries to sign the Rome Statute. And it's something very strong. But the honorable MPs of Cameroon had never ratified the Rome Statute establishing the International Criminal Court in order to guarantee peace and justice. So what you have, it is something from politicians of the country of Cameroon. They are responsible of this. Not only Paul Biya. Not only Paul Biya. I know it's very complicated because of the situation, but it's really a question. Why Cameroon finally is just an observer of this statute and not party of the statute from.
The statute,
It's at this moment you have to think, these sort of questions are very, very far from me, etc., etc. But in fact, International Criminal Court can't open a file on a Cameroonese who is still living in Cameroon. If he travel and if police or justice find him in another country, we can do something. And it's the example for Congo Kinshasa politician 2 days ago. But the question is, without an help for themselves from part of the citizens of Cameroon, it's very complicated to wait for something better for everybody in the country. And so I know it's very complicated because you are in jail if you do something bad in regards of what the power of Cameroon is waiting for. But there is this question. You can be an honorable MPs in Cameroon and ask in the assembly why these statutes are not ratified by us now, and you won't go in jail with this, even in Cameroon. So there is this question.
Yeah.
Where are the other politicians? Of course, you have the opposition with Maurice Kamto in a place, the separatists group in Anglophone part of the country, but where are the others? And it's a question.
Yes, that's a very important question. And on that question, I want you to watch this video, and then because I have something to talk about in that light. There's a video of Paul Biya himself talking about this, the history of Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroun. So I don't know if the people in the studio can put us the video of Mr. Paul Biya speaking about the history of the two countries.
Fellow compatriots, ladies and gentlemen, at long last, here we are in Buea. Here we are in Buea to celebrate the 50th anniversary of our reunification. As the English people say, better late than never. In fact, after a long period of preparation, we are finally glad to be here at this historic town of Buea, the town of legendary hospitality. I am glad to be in Buea, the bedrock of our reunification. History has not forgotten that Buea was the headquarters of West Cameroon. History has not forgotten that Buea was the capital of Southern Cameroon. And history has not forgotten that Buea was once the capital of German Cameroon.
Yes, I think that video, I just wanted to say it, that video explained the background of the crisis in Cameroon. I think that you know a lot about the crisis in Cameroon. They have the historic account, and there Paul Biya was saying that history never forgets that Buea was the capital of the German Cameroon, he said first, and then the British Southern Cameroons. And you talk about the politicians in Cameroon being unable to take any action, especially to sign the accord in the International Criminal Court, and also to take action to stop the impunities going on in Southern Cameroons. And again, the same politicians in Cameroon have been so quick to join the government to categorize every activist, even people like me from the diaspora. They call us terrorists. There are many people who are fighting against the brutality and the banality of evil of Cameroon in Ambazonia and also in Cameroon, but then they are all classified as terrorists. Our leaders, for example, Mr. Ayok Sisiko Ayok Tabe, Mr. Tassan Winfred, and many others were picked up in the Naira Hotel in Nigeria, now almost going to 4 years incommunicado imprisonment. These are people trying to fight for what is right, but then the oppressing power of Cameroon keep suppressing the people, and the government declared war on the people of Southern Cameroons, now going to 4 years. So these are people of Cameroon, these are people of Ambazonia trying to fight to defend what they now call their right to life. Because now, like you said, if you do anything, you go to prison or you get killed by the Cameroon soldiers. So all these things are series of action that are being taken by the people of this region that we're talking about. But then the support that the Cameroon government gets from foreign international community. They get money from IMF. They get support from even from the USA, from France as well. And this military support and military trainings that are used, in wrong way to oppress civilians in these countries. So those kind of things, like, I know it is not the responsibility of France to do these things for African countries or in Cameroon, but you as a European, you as an MP in France, when you see these kind of things, these are things that at least it should be alarming to European countries that the money you give to these countries in Africa, this is what they are doing, and these are things that they are using this money for. But coming to Cameroon now, that there is a clear distinction when you talk to people about Cameroon crisis and what could be the possible solutions and what is the way forward and what is the reason. Because people from southern Cameroons are using their historical account to say that we were a sovereign state, a United Nations trustee territory that were destined for independence or self-governance. But today we cannot be a region of another independent country. And they are calling for outright independence. And those in Cameroon continue to deny that Cameroon was never two, Cameroon was one. And there was a video of Mr. Paul Biya himself admitting on tape that Cameroon was two and British Southern Cameroon had a capital called Buea. So what do you think about those people who are talking about one united Cameroon and Cameroon has always been one? Those who are denying the truth of this problem.
Well, first I have to say I'm sorry. I didn't say it's easy for people in Cameroon to say, hey, you have to do this or that. I'm perfectly aware it's very complicated, and I'm sorry. I didn't say you just have to go in the street and say you are not agree and everything will be okay. So I know it's very complicated, and I know also the Cameroon need its diaspora more than ever in its history. Where I can see something to build now, and with nothing to say to precisely the organization of your country in the future, because I'm MP of France. But where I can see something, it's with this recent resolution in the United States of America Congress, built since this summer, but passing just a few days. It asked, and it says one thing. You have both parts of the violence in Cameroon. You have the power, Paul Biya and his government, and of course the beer, and you have violent, some, not all, but you have violent separatist groups. Both parts are condemned in this resolution. Okay? With this, we are in a moment we can't think we will build something positive without a round table, but a round table with the volunteer of everybody to build something new, because the situation at the moment is unbearable. And in this resolution, senators said, "May France, you have to do something new, because until now you just play your game in the question of economy, things like that, but in the question of human rights, you are not at the rendezvous." And I'm agree with this. And this resolution is saying we have to build for the question of Cameroon,
Yeah.
we have to build an international community to be the referee of the roundtable.
Arbitration, yeah, the international arbitration. That's what they said in that international arbitration. Arbitration,
yes.
Yeah, to be the referee. Yeah.
Not to say you have to organize like this or like this or like this, but to oblige the participant to be honest in their investment. And at the end, the question is, in a way, if we want something, not just words, but democracy, you have to ask people how they want to see their future. It's the question. And elections, votes, are the way to ask people. So one of your colleagues asked me, hey, are you okay for a referendum, etc.? Yes, but it needs to be organized with a large
observers, international observers. Yeah.
Yes, of course. But before a referendum, you have to think of many things to organize.
Yes.
Just look in Spain. You have a region. They organized a vote, and now the leaders who organized this vote are in jail. And it was the president of the region of Catalonia. So it's not so easy. And you can say Spain is a democracy, but it's not so easy to say, hey, we organize a referendum, one question, and after everything is okay. No, you have to think of many things in the process and after the process. And that's the question.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the
Those
question.
Things we need.
And international community has to do this. And France has to be implicated in this. But without his considerations, I can say his habitual considerations, but with the first consideration of France, you know, the first word of the constitution in France are very clear on the subject, and it is something we can say this. The first words are, the French people solemnly proclaim their attachment to human rights. It's the first thing. It's very important. And the principle of national sovereignty as defined by the Declaration of 1789. And this question of national sovereignty, it is the question of self-determination.
Yeah.
So you understand, we have to build with the international community a political process. Yes.
Yeah.
A round table, a lot of round tables, because if you believe it will be okay in, I don't know, 1 month, it's not possible. But you have to think about this process, and you have to think with all the possibilities that open a process. Separatism, a new country, a real federalism, or something else. But you know what? It's Cameroonese people who should invent this. Because if not, it will be as now. Because you can understand why Cameroon is in this situation.
Yeah.
Cameroon adopt the French system, exactly the French system of institutions. But it's not possible because Cameroon is so different from France. I think somewhere it's crazy to think about this. You know, when I started to work on the subject of Cameroon, it was very easy for me to understand. Oh, it's the same. You have the same organization, the same institution, the same criminal court, special tribunal, and things like that.
The same law, the same process. Cameroon is a copy,
but you can't copy an institutional system if you are a different country.
Different, exactly. That's true, because it's so different. Cameroon is so different because Cameroon has two United Nations trustee territories that you are talking about, the British Southern Cameroons and the Cameroon. So for the Cameroon Republic to adopt the Francophone French system, then it's not possible, because these are two different states, two different people and community. But what do you think of those Cameroonian citizens, like the government officials, Cameroon government, that claim to brand people like us, activists in the diaspora, as terrorists? Like, because we understand that the people of France, at one point, France people have to fight to defend their independence, to defend their own freedom from the Nazi Germany. Your people fight a war to free themselves. And those in Southern Cameroon also, after many years of like pleading, using diplomatic means to find solution, and they were being killed and jailed, they decide to pick up arms. What do you think about those people who are doing this?
But the answer is it's very easy. You are in dictatorship since a lot of years, and now this dictatorships is just behind a leader who is 87 years old.
Yeah,
it's impossible. A country like Cameroon with a man of 87.
87, yeah.
It's completely crazy. And so you have people in the shadow who benefit from this situation.
From this, yeah, the credit situation, the benefit.
And all these people, they need to have in their mind somewhere, at a moment, they will have to pay for what they have done. It's clear. And international community has to put the pressure on this question.
Yeah.
And it's too easy for people in the shadow to put people in jail, because I'm sorry, but Paul Biya with 87, yes, he's 87 years old. Is it possible this man is so strong to say, hey, put everybody in jail, etc.? No, it's not possible. It's because you have people in there who are playing a very bad game. And so what I think about this, it's unbearable. And I think and that's why I'm trying to speak a lot about Cameroon. I want to put the light on their action. And after, I hope in justice, and justice for all, and for them also.
Exactly, justice for all and for all also. Like, that is a very important statement, because many people, many of those families, those women, those children who are living now in the bushes, who are in the forest, those who have trekked for like 4 or 5 days in the bush to get to Nigeria to seek refuge, those who have migrated across the Atlantic Ocean with small boats many days just to get to Nigeria to find safety. Their villages are being burned. All those people, and even those who have been killed, their families need answer, they need justice. Even if we want to find any kind of solution that you might think of, there's one important element: justice. Justice. Who is going to be accountable for all the death. Like we have here a video of those young people who were killed in Boya. I think the studio can bring those. We have those images of those ones who were killed also in Pinyin village. There's all these killings that we have. All these things. At the end of the day, there must be justice for any peace. So the entire Cameroon regime, who will be responsible for the Ngabu massacre? Who will be responsible for the people who were killed, the kids killed in the school in Kumba? Who will be responsible for those? Because the Cameroon government is claiming sovereignty over Ambazonia and using their soldiers to fight and kill people. If we have that video of the killings in Boya, I think the studio can bring us those clips. I think the studio can also bring up the video. This is the Pinyin massacre. You can see a pickup truck is full with dead bodies of children, young men in their early 20s, teenagers, 16, 17 years old, women and men being slaughtered by the Cobra soldiers. All this. Children and women. The studio can take us back. Yeah, now talking about the issue of justice. Do you see the Cameroon regime facing any international criminal court, any international trial for this act in southern Cameroons? Like we are saying, Paul Biya is not the only one. There's a group of people there who are responsible, from the army generals to the police commissioners and the gendarme commissioners, all those officials, those who are running Cameroon now.
What I think it's, if we want justice now in this sort of situation, it can only be an international inquiry and not a national one. It's not possible. So for Ngarbe and other, because there is a lot of other massacres,
yes,
we need a mission from United Nations only from United Nations, clearly. And if when I saw this images, I feel so bad, and that's why I was saying, and because we arrive at the end of our interview, but when I saw this, that's why I said I hope 2021 will be better and so different than 2020, clearly.
Yeah, those. But you also mentioned the issue of, you talk about, for example, a referendum that could be organized by the international system. You also mentioned about this international arbitration to look at the discussion, a round table for Cameroon to talk with the leaders of southern Cameroons. And we have seen also within the past year, there have been discussions about the dialogue and the mediation process, but we have not seen the Cameroon government engaging into that process and that dialogue. I know this, again, you are MP for France and you are serving the government of France and the interests of the government of France and their interests and their foreign policies. But, and again, these are issues that I think that it belongs to the people of southern Cameroons and Cameroon to decide. But you as an MP, I think you can also comment on these kind of issues. We know that you are not the one to decide for these people, but beside calling for a referendum, do you think that there is other way to get Cameroon to sit on the table as the US resolution is calling? Do you think there's something France can do? What can France do to get Cameroon to come to the table and talk as the resolution from the US Senate is recommending?
But you know, it's a question of pressure. If United States of America say you have to be at this round table, if United Nations says something like that, if France is saying like that, Cameroon, even those who are at the moment in the government and in power, they will be obliged to be at this real roundtable and dialogue. Yes, clearly.
And most of the
it is,
yeah,
and I hope it is for 2021 because it's
yeah,
urgent now. And if it's the last word I can say today with you, it is we need a solution, a political solution in 2021. And we have to start this dialogue as soon as possible, even if we have the COVID-19 and
yeah,
it is another problem, but it is a problem, really. But
yeah.
we have to solve the first step, and the first step is to organize this roundtable in 2021, clearly.
Yes, this roundtable, many Amazonian leaders are willing to come for this roundtable talk, but they have only one issue on their part, and they have communicated that very clearly, that the form of the state have to be a subject of discussion on that roundtable. Do you think that Cameroon or the international system can get Cameroon to come to talk without talking about the form of the state? Do you think that that can lead to any place?
You don't have to think about the form of the state before entering in the process of the dialogue and the discussions. The discussions are made to build a new system, a new model of state. So if you arrive at the place with only one thing in your mind, it is not democracy, because democracy is to find a solution with people who are thinking with different point of view. So you have to build this. And so it is not at the beginning you start with a discussion to say, hey, you want this, you want that, etc. In fact, we know a part of the opinion of each leaders. Okay,
Yeah,
but it's from all these discussions, dialogue, that will emerge the best solution, because it is the way democracy functions. You accept something a little bit or different from what you think at the beginning, because you have discussed it with a lot of other people. They convince or they are not convince you, but you are in the process to build together. It's very important. I accept from my government decisions when I am part of the discussion and the vote before the decision. If the decision is taken without my opinion before, I don't accept them. And that's, I think, the way Cameroon should organize this thing. A discussion, a goal. The goal is to find a new system for a better way of life for Cameroonese people from southern Cameroon, but the others also, because you know there are a lot of social problems in Cameroon also. You can't think a political system just for a category of people. You have to think for both Cameroonese people. That's what I think with a process, with democracy in the process. So you know without this dialogue, you can't find a good solution in the long term. That's the point of view of French MP who love democracy, and even when the result is not what I expected at the beginning of my investment in a question.
That's quite very good, and we appreciate that. And again, the issue of sovereignty. Many African countries, they are very good to always use sovereignty to defend that foreign intervention in their countries. And Cameroon, for one, many times they have always used their sovereignty to defend that international community doesn't intervene into their country. But I just want to ask you this a very interesting question now, that Cameroon have agreed to host the African Nations Cup in Cameroon, and they are scheduling to have games in Boya and Limbe. And these are areas that have been declared by many reports of the Human Rights Watch and many international NGOs, and even the United Nations Human Rights Report, that this area is a complete war zone. And I have a video here in Ekuna, in one town, of the Cameroon soldiers going around and shooting. I don't know if the studio can bring us that video. So we are just thinking how, why and how the African, of course, the AFCON agreed to come to. If the studio have that video there of Ekuna, the one, the soldiers just shooting openly on the street at buildings. There's no one. It's a ghost town. The city is completely dry. Everybody has escaped. But then the soldiers are just going around with machine gun behind a pickup truck, just shooting at buildings on the street as they go. And do we have that video? Do we have that video?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed, but I have another meeting, and I propose you to come another time, in a moment, in a month or 2 months, as you prefer, to speak.
Yeah. We can talk. Yeah.
Especially on a question. Just because I think it's a very important question that you are starting to put in the debate, and it needs a lot of time to answer to this. So if you agree, I will. It will be a pleasure for me.
I understand you say. We have been quite already long, and we started late, so I think that we can wrap it up anyway. I really sincerely appreciate your time, and the discussion we have had. They're very important and very educative. And in the future, if there is a possibility, we can look at this. We can see what is going to change within this couple of months, and we might look at the need to talk again. And I sincerely appreciate your time. Our people appreciate that you come to talk and to share your ideas with us. And we want to wish you all the best in your work also, and in your political career. We wish that people like you, politicians like you, should get the support of Africans in France, because we want a new relationship between France and Africa, a better relationship, a good relationship that benefits both of the continents. So we shall be following you on social media with your activism and your work that you do. And we hope that someday this crisis can end very soon. And you might be even someone that we can always talk about, that your contributions was very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. And I have to say, we didn't speak about education, health, and really these questions are very, very important. And so I think it's for the next time.
For the next time, yeah. All right. Thank you very much, MP Sabastien Nadot. We thank you, and we see you until next time again. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, fellow Ambazonians, we just had the session there with the MP. But I think I need to make a short roundup before I leave the studio myself, before I leave this live show. I think one thing is very clear, Ambazonians. One thing is very, very clear. It is crystal clear to all of us. Nobody is going to give you independence. Nobody. Listen, the French government is not the reason we are not free. We cannot blame the international system. It belongs to you and I. Freedom is never given. it is taken. The people of Southern Cameroon must continue their tenacity and their struggle to fight for their independence. We shall not wait for the United Nations. We shall not wait for any foreign country. No favors will be done to us. This revolution was never and is not going to be a walk in the park. So this is why we continue to call Ambazonians. You have to invest your time in this struggle. Invest your money in this struggle. Let us support our self-defense. When the self-defense, when the gunboat diplomacy is strong, the international community is going to respond. As we hear from the MP himself, this 2021 should be the year. A lot of things are coming. The pressure on Cameroon is mounting. And we are talking about the possibility of an international mediation. That we have international arbitration. And again, Ambazonians, you hear the MP talk about the resolution from the US Congress, US Senate. This conflict will be resolved only by resolutions. We need resolutions from the American, we need from the French Parliament, we need resolution from the EU, we need also resolution from the United Nations Security Council. These are the places that we are going to get these things done, not empty talks, because the talks alone are not going to manifest into any substantial action on the ground itself. What we want are actions, and actions are resolutions. So we continue to call Ambazonians, and when you look at the issue of what kind of mediation, we have to talk about every issue, everything, including the form of the state. So now, I want Ambazonians to understand something. There's a reason why we bring this kind of guests and try to talk to them, because we want Cameroon to understand that the international community is watching and people know what is going on. So we are not bringing this kind of people to come to talk to us, to tell us what to do or to give us independence. No, that is not at all what we are doing. The only reason we are bringing this kind of guests is to talk with them and to let Cameroon know that the world is talking. So I shall be bringing on many other foreign international politicians and important personalities and even diplomats to talk about this situation, because talking about this thing is mounting pressure. But these people are not coming to give us any solution that we don't already know, Ambazonians. You and I, we know the way to Buea. And the way to Buea is block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, and gutter by gutter. We must lay our trenches. Our soldiers must be fortified. Our barriers must be fortified. Our camps must be strong. We must feed our soldiers. We must take care of the sick in the hospitals, refugees in Nigeria, and we push this war to the finish line. I want Ambazonians to understand something. Our freedom is already seen. Our freedom is clearly seen by many, but we have to take it. You have to own it. You have to stand up to show that you are free. You have to stand up and say that this land is mine and we are here to stay. And that is all we need to do. No amount of silence, walking and talking is going to change anything. The only thing that is going to bring us changes are the actions that we take, the steps that we take. We need to make sure. I was just raising the issue of the AFCON. AFCON is coming in Ambazonia. We cannot allow Cameroon to host their Nation Cup in Southern Cameroon. That is not going to happen. And that is something that we must fight by any means necessary to make sure that that tournament doesn't go as planned. Ambazonians, this again, it is something that only you and I can do, not something that the French are going to do to us or the international. This is something that just you and I have to do. And I call you, compel our self-defense forces. Our soldiers should coordinate themselves. We call for collaboration on the ground. Let us collaborate and fight together and push the enemy. We need to make a statement. In fact, we must make a statement during this AFCON time. If AFCON venture to enter into Ambazonia, Ambazonians, we should make a statement very loud and clear. I continue to compel Ambazonians. There's a power vacuum in Cameroon. The political structure in Cameroon is collapsing, and our people must be strong and resilient. The dawn of our freedom is very near. This is not the time for us also, Ambazonians, I always say, to start to pat our backs and start to relax. No, this is the time that we must make more gains and protect our victory when Cameroon is weak. This is the time that Cameroon is very weak and vulnerable, and Ambazonians must take the opportunity to continue to fight very hard, as strong as we can do. And again, how do we do this? We do this with our different functions and structures and communities that we have. We are collaborating, yes. We are working together, yes. We maintain our various structures and affiliations. The thing is, Amazonians, when you put the flag first, when you are loyal to the flag, you have no problem to collaborate with any person. If you are loyal to the Amazonian flag, you can do this job and collaborate with any Southern Cameroonians. But when you are not loyal to the flag, when you are loyal to a group, to a person, to an interest, to an ideology, then you will not be able to work with other Amazonians. And that is the problem. And that is something we must refrain from. Amazonians must be able to work together. That means doing the job for the flag alone and nothing but the flag. So that is why we are saying we don't see any reason why Amazonians are not collaborating. We don't see any reason why Amazonians are not collaborating. We don't see any reason why our soldiers are not collaborating. Our people must come together and work and take action. If you listen to almost 1 hour with the MP, everything he was saying are the same things we already know. He's saying the same stuff. You people need to fight. You people need to stand up for your own right. You people need to defend yourself. You people need to decide your own future and your destiny. That was what he was saying. And this goes to the larger extent of Africa. Africa must rise up, and Africans need to stand up to path and to pave their own new way of life and the direction that they want. This is something we need to do. Nobody is going to do that for you and I. Nobody is going to do that for Africa. So Amazonians, we already know these things. And now I compel you, now I beg you, I beg your commitment that we must uphold the struggle. The very reason that we started to fight, we need to push it to the finish line. And that is something that we are almost there. We are almost there, Amazonians. We must just keep the spirit, keep the tenacity, and continue to push till we get to the finish line. And let me assure you, Amazonians, we are going to get there as a nation, not as individuals, not as people. We're not going to get there one by one. We are going to get there as our entire 8 million Southern Cameroonian population. If I don't get there, you will get there on my behalf, and your victory getting there to Buea is good enough for me to know. So we must continue to fight to keep the spirit of Mami Apin, to keep the spirit of Sam Sawyer, to keep the spirit of the Gabu massacre and all the kids that have been slaughtered in Amazonia. We will fight to the last man standing. We have to fight. That is the only option we have. That's our only options. Self-defense. Because if you don't protect your right to life, you will not even have life to protect anything. So we must uphold the most important human right, and that is the right to life. When you protect that right, then you can talk about your right to eat or to sleep. But if you don't have a life, you have no other right, and you are gone. You are either dead or alive. So right now, Amazonians, we know what we have to do, and I call on all Southern Cameroonians that during this time of AFCON, let us collaborate in FACO. Let us collaborate in FACO. We need collaboration in FACO heavily on the ground to make sure that there is an incident, to make sure that AFCON is going to go out of Southern Cameroons. We must collaborate right now. The focus should be FACO. Now, as we are speaking, FACO is a place where we need to fortify our self-defense to make sure that AFCON becomes a failure. Southern Cameroonians, this is the most important time of our struggle. When we have the attention of the international community, now is the time. Now is the time for you and I to finish the job. Now is the time for you and I to complete what we started. Now is the time for you and I to maximize the gain. Now is the time for you and I to capitalize on our victory. Cameroon is on their knees. We must need to push them down. Like we said last time, when you are going to kill a snake, you have until you cut the head off before you can be free. The head of Cameroon is still attached. Cameroon can be restored. Cameroon can seek for help and assistance from their friends and their neighbors around the globe. But we must fight. They are now on their knees. We need to fight till we cut off the head of the snake. And that snake is Cameroon. The oppressor is Cameroon. The occupier is Cameroon. The occupier is not Amazonians. The occupier is not your friends. It's not other group. The occupier of our land is Cameroon. So we must fight and push till we free Amazonia. And that is our only mission. And that I compel you, and that I leave you with my takeaway message, that the freedom of our land depends on us. France is not going to give you independence. Cameroon is not going to give you independence. The UN is not going to give you independence. Even the African Union. We must fight to take our homeland and restore our statehood by our own very effort, Southern Cameroonians. That is the truth and nothing but the truth. And that is the only truth you should believe in, but nothing else. Don't believe in any other truth. The only truth is that our freedom will be fought for by our own people. We shall fight and die for that freedom. We shall fight and die for some to live. And that is why I continue to send 21 gun salute to all our comrades on the ground, generals on the ground, General Efang himself on the ground, General Arike, Commando, all the soldiers, the brilliant soldiers of Southern Cameroon. We salute your efforts, because your effort is our last hope. Your efforts are only the efforts that are going to redeem the generation of our people coming. And that is what we must all do, Southern Cameroonians. And that is what we should believe in. The belief of ourselves, freeing ourselves. That is the mindset. That is the mindset. And we must continue on that mindset, Ambazonians. And that is, for me, my roundaway message from this discussion with the MP. We are going to do many more of this kind of discussion with very important guests on this show. So stay tuned. And if you have any information, anything regarding the struggle, you are very free to contact us and share us that information. But for now, until next Sunday again, I'll be back live, perhaps with a very new guest on the show to talk about different things. So I think for now, I'm going to wrap up the live show, and we will see again on the weekends on Sunday. But we must remember our freedom depends on us. We must remember our freedom depends on our soldiers on the ground, the barefoot soldiers, the Changshu boys. We must remember our freedom will not be given to us by any foreign country, but we shall fight for that by ourselves. And that is the only solution for our independence. That's the only way for our independence. And you shouldn't believe in anything else. You shouldn't believe that there's a savior is coming from abroad to save you.